Hey everyone, tonight's homework is doing a flipped classroom 9.1 percents and fractions. There's a few things I want you to write down. If you have a red pen, I want you to go ahead and copy these areas down in the blanks. But today I'm going to tell you about how to turn a percent into a fraction and then how to turn a fraction into a percent. The first part, you're going to put percent over 100. Let's just imagine that you had started off with 75%, but you wanted that to be a fraction. So what you would do is you would take this percent right here, and you would just go ahead and stick 75. You can get rid of the percent sign and stick it over 100. So 75% is the same thing as 75 over 100, but you have to simplify it. So if you were to simplify that, that would be 3/4. So 75% is the same thing as 3/4. Now let's imagine that we had actually started with 3/4 as a fraction instead of 75%. So the first thing you're going to do right here, it tells us, is we have to divide. So if you stick that into your calculator, 3 divided by 4 or 3/4 is the same thing as, put it in your calculator if you've got your calculator with you. All right, it's the same thing as 0.75. Now the next part it tells us right here is to move the decimal 2 places to the right. If I were to move this 2 places to the right, my decimal point now is going to be right here at the end. So what's this new number that I have right here? 75. Okay, so now I've got a 75. And then the last part right here says all you have to do is just add the percent sign. So that tells you that 3/4 is the same thing as 75%. Let's just do a few examples. For number 1, it says to write the percent as a fraction. So we know we're going to go ahead and take this percent that we have, 37, we'll get rid of that percent sign and stick it over what number? 100. Now, 37 over 100 cannot be simplified. If you were to put that into your calculator, you would see when you hit the equals button, 37 over 100 comes out again. So the answer is 37 over 100. Next up, let's just imagine that I say 50% of the class is here. Some of you might know this on the top of your head. 50% is the same as what fraction? Well, let's find out. I would have to stick 50 over 100, and you have to simplify that. Stick that into your calculator, see what comes out. When you see what comes out, it is 1/2. So if I say 50% of the class is here, 1/2 of the class is here would make sense. Let's go on to the last example here for problem C. Once again, 22, we're going to put it over 100. When I look at that, I can see they can both be reduced or divided by 2. So if I was to divide by 2 on top and bottom, I'm going to get 11/50. So 22% is the same thing as 11/50. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next section. Number 2 is asking us to do just the opposite. Instead, it says write the fraction as a percent. So we're doing the opposite of exactly what we just did before. So look at the notes where it says fraction to a percent. The first thing it asks you to do is what? Divide, okay? So if I put 4/5 into my calculator, or if I'm dividing 4 divided by 5, put it in your calculator for me real quick and see what comes out. All right, it should say 0.8, okay? Now, my next thing, if I look back up there from a fraction to a percent, first I have to divide, and then it says to move the decimal places 2 places to the what? To the right, okay? So I move 1, 2, and just remember we're going to drop a 0 in there. So now my decimal point is over here, and you can see instead I've got the number 80, and all I have to do is add the percent sign. So that is 80%, and that means that's the same thing as 4/5. Going to the next one. Go ahead and try problem B and C on your own. All right, when you do 3/4, you get 0.75. Once again, the instructions tell you to move it 2 places to the right, and then you drop that down, it's a 75, and you just want to add the percent, so your answer is 75%. Next up, put 2/7 into your calculator. When you do that, you get a pretty big number. So it's going on 0.285711429. It kind of keeps going. Whenever doing a problem like this, you really only need to take it to the nearest tenth. So I'm just going to put 4 numbers there. My next thing tells me to move it 2 decimal places to the right. So I've got 1, 2. Now if I were to bring that down, it would be 28.57. All right, so once you have 28.57, I'm just going to go ahead and simplify this to the nearest tenth. So this one asks him, are you 5 or bigger? He says yes. So that is going to turn 28.57 into 28.6. And then the very last thing it tells me to do when changing a fraction to a percent is to add the percent sign. So 28.6% is the same thing as 2/7. All right, I want you to go ahead and flip to the next section on the very back of your paper. This one is asking us to find the percent of the number. As you're doing it, there's a couple things that I want you to do first. Write this in the blank. If you have your red pen, go ahead and pull that out. It tells us right here to change the percent, to go ahead and put that in the blank, to a decimal. That's the thing you want to do first. And then you're going to multiply the total. So let's go ahead and go through this. Once again, we'll change the percent to a decimal. So as I'm looking right here, 60%. If I'm thinking about trying to change that to a decimal, I know that my decimal point is right here, and I'm going to have to move it over 2 places to the left. So 60% is the same thing as 0.6. So what I just did is what this said, change the percent to a decimal. 60% is the same thing as 0.6. And next step, it asks me to multiply the total. So since it says right here, what is 60% of 75, I'm going to multiply 0.6 times 75. Go ahead and put that in your calculator and see what you get. All right, when you do it, you get 45. So 60% of 75 is 45. Let's go to the next one. It asks, what is 35% of 90? So just remember, your decimal point is technically right here at the end of every number. I've got to move it over 2 places. So if I move that over, now I've got 0.35. Remember, once again, you're just changing that percent to a decimal. And now I have to multiply the total. So it's asking me, how much is it of 90? So I'm going to go ahead and multiply it times 90. Stick that in your calculator, see what you get. Hopefully you got 31.5. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and I want you to try to do problem C on your own. Okay, here we go. The decimal point is over here. You're going to go ahead, put it right there, 0.4, and multiply it times 150. When you do that, hopefully you found out that your answer is 60. All right, pretty simple lesson for today. Hope you enjoyed your short video, and I hope you enjoy the activity tomorrow. Have a good night.